Welcome to Diary of a CIO. My name is 𝗕𝗿𝗶𝗴. I'm the Executive General Manager of New South Wales for 𝗕𝗿𝗀𝗀 and National Recruitment Business. I've created this podcast after 20 years in the industry, speaking to numerous CIOs. The main topic of conversation has always been around technology, transformation, agile versus waterfall, etc., etc. What I noticed was a significant gap in the market about the story behind the job title. So I've created this podcast to I suppose uncover some of the myths, dispel some of them, and also just to inspire the next generation of technology leaders across Australia around some inspiring stories from CIOs. So with that in mind, I welcome Keiren Lawrence to the show today. Keiren's someone I've known for, I'd say, close to 10 years from time at Coffee and then Ampol and then more recently at Brickworks. So just a quick introduction, Keiren, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Nice. So Keiren Lawrence, I'm currently the CIO for Brickworks and I have been doing that for about 6 months, so still relatively new into that role there. That came off the back of almost 8 years at Ampol Australia. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. And with that in mind, the topic of today's podcast, the common theme is going to be around breaking the glass ceiling. So any listeners out there who aspire to be CIOs or on the cusp of being a CIO, we'll be talking through the journey that Keiren's gone through and sharing some experience with you. So with that in mind, if you just talk me through your current role and how you got there over the last kind of 5 to 10 years from Coffee to Ampol to Brickworks.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, my career has been, I'm going to say, decently long. So Coffee was an interesting environment because we had a lot of transformation over an 8-year period. And I was leading the PMO there, so really focused on the delivery side of the business and how we can integrate a lot of business that we'd acquired over a number of years. And so my focus there was really on PMO and driving delivery from our projects and transformation. I then transitioned into a role at Ampol, which was initially going to be as the IT PMO manager. And I think that role lasted all of 3 months. And I very quickly, the CIO changed at Ampol at the time. And I found myself in a very interesting position where quite soon into a new role, I was asked to do something completely different. And I hadn't done any of the service delivery side and the operational side of the business. And when I met the then incoming CIO, he met me and said, you know, we've got some work to do on service delivery for Ampol. We need to improve our services for our customers, particularly in our retail business. So he asked me to move over and look after service delivery there. So I did that, and I did that for a couple of years and really enjoyed it and found that my time over Ampol just evolved into many different roles covering the breadth of technology. And it all kind of led me to the position of then accepting the CIO role for Brickworks last year. And it was the amalgamation of, I guess, the years of delivery background, bringing in the operational side of the business with a really strong apps focus, to then kind of round that out and taking it all in one go as the CIO for Brickworks. Which is
How did you start your career? Did you start in technology or have you got a different background?
Good question. So I did actually start in technology.
Okay.
So in high school, I was going to be a photographer. I wanted to be an artist, and I thought that was 100% what I was going to do. And my mum, she thought there was money in computers, right? She was looking forward and thinking, I think a career in technology would be a far smarter career. I was pretty good at computers at school and really liked it, but thought I was going to be an artist. And so we kind of made a deal with my mum that if I didn't get into the photography course that I wanted to do, that I would go and do a little like a systems admin diploma at a local business school. And I didn't get in, and I went and did the diploma, and I really enjoyed it. And so my first role was as a service desk, like a help desk analyst, because I'd graduated in 99. So it meant that in 2000, when the bottom fell out of the technology market, that's when I was looking for my first job. So it was really hard, but I did manage to get a role working for 𝗕𝗿𝗀𝗶𝗶 IT at the time on their help desk. And that's kind of came from the bottom of technology up is probably the best way. Very very good experience working on a help desk. I'm sure, advise that.
Proves the term that mums know best as well. So you've got your mum to thank for that.
Yes.
Did you always aspire to be a CIO? I suppose when you entered the technology realm, fairly new, did you look around and think this is the path I want to take? And I suppose, how did that craft the next kind of years or kind of your career?
Yeah, look, I don't think I did initially. I think initially I just wanted to do more. So I have a really big passion for learning and learning the business and the technology. And so I really kind of just took on any challenge that was thrown at me. And that came from, on the help desk to then I was starting to organize all the field technicians. And it just kind of naturally evolved, partially because I was the only female and I was quite organized, and I was just starting to organize people that evolved into project management very quickly. And so it was more that I was just always wanting to learn the next thing, and I was taking on opportunities and saying yes, and really, really kind of embracing the challenges that were thrown at me. And then I think about 5 years ago, I sat down with the previous CIO at Ampol, and we said, okay, where are we actually going? Like, what does this look like for a career? And at that point in time, when I thought about it, I thought, I want to be a CIO. That's where I'm going. It feels like the natural progression for me. I love leadership. I love the people side of things. I'm also passionate about the technology, but I was kind of finding my niche in the space between the business and the tech. I'm not deeply technical, but I'm good at translating and questioning and challenging. And so I was finding my niche in that space. And so we quite purposefully sat down and went through, okay, as a CIO, what are the skills? What are skills that you need to do that? And where are you today? And then what does the next few years look like in order to get you that experience across the breadth of technology to get there? And so from that point, it became quite purposeful, and it was going to be hopefully where I landed. You obviously never know if you'll get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, from that point, it was a plan to one day get there.
It's interesting. You talk a number of times then about the business.
Yes.
And I think the perception of the right or wrong perception in technology is you have to be a deep technical specialist to be the best at tech. But I think CIOs, you can't be a deep technical specialist in every single area. It's just impossible. You haven't got enough time in the day. What was it about the business that really, I suppose, attracted you to want to learn about the business, understand how technology and the business connect and how that meant the business would operate?
Yeah, I think I really like seeing the value from what I'm doing in any aspect. So I quite naturally want to spend time out on site, or want to be out seeing how people experience technology and how they're working with it, to then make sure we're proactively providing value as well. And so, yeah, I really kind of find that space fascinating. And now I'll be out at a brick plant to see how it's working and see the manufacturing lines, or out in one of our supply center sites in North America and really seeing our customers and seeing how our people on the front counter are interacting with people and how we can help make their jobs easier. And I think that's really rewarding. And so that's really a big part of it for me.
And what about becoming a CIO? Is that something that you consciously made a decision? You talked around kind of your career planning, kind of 2 years at a time. Did you make a conscious decision 2 years and 6 months ago that I want to become a CIO and this is what I need to do? Or what was the journey for you to actually get in your first step into the CIO role?
Definitely. So it goes back to that plan that I did with my previous CIO and working through rounding out all of your experiences. I mean, I don't think that I could have made the transition had I only had a delivery background, without spending the time in operations and service delivery and infrastructure to really understand that side of how it works. And so I think it's probably about a 5-year plan to end there. And obviously you don't know if you're going to end there. But the hope is that, you can round out enough of your skills so that you're prepared when you get an opportunity. If an opportunity arises, it's also a very challenging role to crack. And I understand that, and I was not naive to that. It's a challenging role to move straight into from one company to another. And so, yeah, I think it was just bringing all of the planning together and making sure that you had the round out of experience and the right mentors and leadership to help you develop in the spaces that you needed to end up getting there.
And how's the transition been for you? Obviously, different role. I think a common theme I've heard, or a common topic that people talk about is lonely at the top.
Yes.
I think now you are the CIO and the buck stops with you. How's the transition over the last 6 months been for you?
Look, I think the transition has been really good. I think that it can be hard because you are the only one. But what I've done is I've really relied on my networks of other CIOs and people that I've worked with before to really help, I guess, smooth that out. I have good advisors on my side who have been willing to give up time to talk to me about it. And I think the main challenge has been, I'm going to say the overwhelming quantity of people who want to help, not only through my existing networks, but through I'm going to say external consultants and others in your network that really want to be there to provide the help. And it's really getting the right level of advice, but also then trusting your gut and your instincts, because that got you so far, like that got you here, and that's what's going to get me forward. But not being naive to the fact that I don't know everything, and that advice and mentorship is really valuable from others. So it's finding the balance. Do I have it perfect? Who knows? But I think it's just filtering out the noise and making sure that I'm staying true to myself and what we need to deliver as a business, and then getting on with it. And
how's your transition into being the focal point of contact for technology to the board been? I think presenting to the board, communicating to the board, I assume would be quite different to what you've been used to before. So how have you navigated that journey, and what advice would you give to other people maybe in a similar position?
Yeah, look, it's definitely a different audience, and I'm still finding my feet there. I think what I'd say is I've approached it with honesty and transparency, and I think that's the best that we can do. I mean, the board, I kind of look at it from the perspective of they need a certain level of information so that they are across what's happening and able to make the appropriate decisions, but also making sure that we're not exposing them to too much detail that then is overwhelming, right? So it's making sure that we're really succinctly passing the message up. You'd probably have to ask them if it's working or not. But I think the main approach I've had is just being really honest and transparent, and making sure that we're bringing in the stories and the value of what we can be providing from a technology function, and being really clear with what we can and can't do, so that we're not overcommitting to something that the team can't deliver, but that we're also, we're being proactive and really driving value back through technology.
Nice. And you talked earlier around the value of, I suppose, mentorship throughout your career, and I suppose mentors come through networking.
Yes.
So there's a lot of people, I think, out there that shy away from networking because potential introverts, I don't feel comfortable. What's your natural state? Are you an introvert, an extrovert, and how comfortable are you networking outside of your comfort zone?
Good question. I am a massive introvert. I am not. I hate networking. I think the worst thing for me is walking to a room full of people that I don't know. That is terrifying. But what I do, I do it when I have to, essentially. But what I focus on for networks is really the relationships that builds. My interest in learning extends to people as well. So meeting people and learning something about them and understanding them, and maintaining the relationships is something that I find really important. I will still catch up with people that I worked with back from my coffee days or other, to make sure that, the people that I connect with along the way, I continue those connections. And so I would say it is fewer, deeper connections. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. But it's really fostering the relationships and making sure that you're there for people along the way, if they need someone, and you're returning the mentorship that others give you, but also just being open to listening to advice and returning the favor wherever you can.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely opportunities and rewards there from networking. I think it's really important what you said about the networking and mentorship. It's a two-way street. So it's not just there for you to be, I suppose, taking. It's your opportunity to provide the next generation of people your time and your support as well, as they climb the ladder as well. So that's a really interesting comment. One thing that I suppose we've talked about over the years, as I've kind of worked with you as well, is changing environments. So I think natural human instincts is that they fear change, but at the same time, change is uncomfortable, but I feel it's essential in terms of growth as well. What's your experience in terms of, you've worked in a number of environments where there's been some significant change, and I don't want to use the transformation word, but there's definitely been change there. What's your thought on change, and how has that added value to your career?
Look, definitely. I mean, I think change has been the constant through my career is probably what I would say. And I know that is for everyone, but particularly in technology, it is evolving at such a rapid pace. But also a lot of the business that I've been a part of have been evolving. My time at Coffee, we went through a very rapid acquisition phase, and we were integrating, I'm going to say 30-something companies. We were going through a very large integration piece. And so that business was rapidly evolving and grappling with bringing in technology. Ampol similarly was changing rapidly over the years. And so I think it's just part of every day now. I think that the experience you have in change really helps ground you to the fact that you need to be on top of it, and you need to be really mindful of what's coming and trying to get in front of as much as you can. But also, it shows that there's so much opportunity, and there's so much opportunity in technology and optimizing what you do so that you can drive more value and really leverage the technology that you've got access to. I mean, I think probably now more than any other time in my career, technology is changing so rapidly. And the change that we're up against right now is really exciting. And you can see the value that it is going to bring to the business when it's applied well, right? And so I think that there's just so much more coming in terms of the landscape changing, but where, if you can get on the front foot and really adapt it and embrace it, then I think we're in a really great position.
Yeah, I think getting on the front foot, adapting and embracing it's important. I think speaking to other CIOs and technology leaders, the ones that have progressed at the faster rate are the people when they see change, they don't shy away from it. They're the ones at the front saying, I want to help, I want to be part of this. Yeah. So I think making sure you put your hand up when there's an opportunity to be part of that change is really important as well. How have you adapted to the change at Brickworks? Because I know you are going through a very exciting uplift at the moment and kind of changing that business. So how's that been for you?
Yeah, look, I think we have a lot of opportunities to leverage. I mean, the new technologies that are out there, but also existing investments and really optimizing the work that has come before is really important. And so, I mean, we're starting with building the capability we need within the team, and the capability build is really crucial for us so that we can then make sure that we're delivering across everything to add value back in. And so the focus is really on how do we optimize and leverage our existing investments to drive value for future. And within that, there's a lot, obviously, but it's a really exciting time to be able to look at what's happening in the market and what's happening in tech and bring it all together and bring it to a business that is such a core part of Australia in terms of our manufacturing and the products that we're bringing to market. And so, yeah, it's a really exciting time, and it's been an interesting change, but a good one.
Yeah, are you enjoying it?
Definitely enjoying it.
And going back to something you said earlier about, I think, starting your career, one of the only females in the technology department. Yeah. Thankfully, that's changed, and that's not the case in many IT departments anymore. But then also talking around the constant change, I suppose taking on roles outside of your comfort zone, moving into your first CIO role. Strong mindset is I'd say critically important. How do you build a strong mindset in those different situations where you've got different challenges? How do you maintain a strong mindset?
I think sometimes it's really hard. And I think that sometimes I've struggled with this. I have kind of burnt out along the way on at least one occasion, but probably more than that. And so I think it's really important for me making sure that I am looking after myself, because if you're not looking after yourself, then you can't bring the best for your team and for everything that you do, your family, your team. And so for me, there's a balance that I need to find and create. And I put in some rules a little while ago to make sure that I'm not pushing myself too far to exhaustion. So I have some rules just around, in the morning when I wake up, I don't look at my phone first thing. I make sure that I get sunlight on my eyeballs sometime, and then I can look at the phone. And so it's really just starting to make sure that I'm looking after me first. At night, I now have to I choose to read a paper book before I go to bed, and I don't look at tech for at least the last half an hour before I go to sleep. And it's really helping to look after sleep patterns and B, mental health, right? And it's also then just being really present with my family when I'm spending time with them to make sure that they're getting the best of me at that time. I think that over the years I've gone through periods where work becomes all-encompassing. You're up in the middle of the night, you're up first thing in the morning, you're on your phone non-stop, and you don't put it down, and it becomes very stressful, and you can become overwhelmed with it. It works for a period, obviously, and then it can become too much. So I think that I've learned to prioritize myself and my mental health, so that I'm giving the most and the best of me every day.
That's very interesting. I think the world of technology we live in now, it's all about being as connected as possible.
Yeah.
There's some really good research. I went to a show at the ICC with Andy Huberman, and he talked around the importance of detaching from technology. And I think on the back of that, I leave my phone at home when I take my dog for a walk, and I try my best not to be as attached to technology as I was before. So I think that's an interesting kind of topic there. Do you feel the real world benefits of having that kind of separation from technology? And I suppose going back to paper-based books as opposed to Kindle, and just kind of reconnecting with non-technology sources?
Yeah, definitely. The sunlight on your eyeballs thing is Andy Huberman as well. He's very good. But yeah, it has definitely helped. It's also the type of content that I'm reading. I've gone back to reading more fiction. I've always been good at reading business books to learn and kind of grow, but I don't think I'd read a fiction book, in like 10 years. And so it's also just getting back into stopping and doing something, just for fun, I guess, rather than for like learning and a purpose. It's also multitasking. You end up multitasking everything, right? Yeah. It's being more present in the thing that you do rather than trying to do 5 things at once is also really important.
What about the people around you? Obviously, having a strong mindset yourself is important. I think either surrounding yourself with people of a similar mindset, or if you're coming into new to a role, helping the people around you strengthen their mindset as well. Is that something you've done before? Have any insights in terms of what other people may want to do if they've got challenges around that themselves?
Well, I think it's hard because everyone has different benchmarks of what they want, and I think we need to let them lead in terms of what's appropriate and what they need. But I am mindful of really making sure that we're not pushing people outside of what's comfortable. My team today is spread across Australia and North America, and the time zone is really not very conducive to a lot of interactions, especially as we move into our winter months and they move into summer. The overlap pretty much disintegrates. And so I'm also mindful of making sure that we're accommodating both teams, and that our Australian team is not always doing things in business hours, and we're making our US counterparts stay up late at night. And so we're trying different things around that to try and help our team manage their time. We're moving to video updates rather than live meetings for a period of time to see if that works, to help make sure that we're not pushing the teams really heavily outside of hours. So I think it's just being mindful of what our expectations are of people outside of hours. I know that flexible work is really important, and that's kind of where we've all landed in the world lately. But it also means that if I'm emailing late at night because that works for me, there's not the expectation on the team that everyone else is up at that time of night and responding. And so I think it's balancing expectations and the way that we're interacting with our teams to make sure that we're not setting something accidentally that is putting extra pressure on people that's not needed.
Yeah, interesting points. I'll talk about DE&I as well. And I suppose building collaborative teams, I think an important part of that is a diverse team and an inclusive team as well. What does DE&I mean for you?
Well, I think for me, it's around having the diversity of opinions in the room and at the table. And so we're hearing from everybody involved from different backgrounds and as much diversity as we can build within the team, but that everyone has a voice to be able to input. I mean, the perspectives that we get from a diverse team is really important. And I like the fact that people can challenge and ask questions and come from different angles. I think if we had a team of all the same people,
Yeah.
you would just miss so much. Like
Yeah.
we just would miss so many opportunities. And so I think it's diversity from all angles, but also making sure that people feel comfortable to question things and really question what's come before and the approach that we're taking to make sure we're going in the right direction. So I think it comes through many ways. And I think it's really, obviously really important.
Yeah. Do you like to be challenged in terms of your decision making? Do you like to have people around you that kind of challenge your way of thinking and challenge kind of the decisions, or not decisions, but the ideas you have to create, I suppose, a much more rounded outcome for everyone?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, look, I don't have all of the answers, and I don't think within the team any one person has all the answers, but I think that there's definitely ways that everyone can challenge and contribute and ask questions so that we land on the best outcome for everyone. And so definitely I am open to a challenge. I think there are respectful ways to do it, and I think that is important. But definitely I think we should all be challenging each other and really pushing to get the best outcomes.
And as someone who's worked with you over the years and recruited a number of people into your teams over the years, feedback's always been great in terms of your leadership. I don't think I've ever placed someone into a role underneath you that hasn't enjoyed working with you and wouldn't want to work for you again. So that's quite a statement, but it is true. Like, what's your secret to good leadership? How do you become a good leader, in your opinion?
Gosh, I don't know that there is a secret. I think that there's a lot to be said for being genuine and for showing up with consistency each day, which is something that I try to do. But also I actually genuinely care about the people in my team and I'm invested in them being successful. I think the success of all the individuals in our team lifts the team, and we're able to then deliver some really cool stuff. And so I definitely invest the time and the energy to help develop the careers of the people in the team, which is also a two-way street. People need to also be coming to the table and wanting and looking for going where they want to go. And so I think, I genuinely care about the people that I work with, and I think that that's really important. And, I want to see them succeed, because at the end of the day, that's how we all succeed.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think a good technology individual makes a good leader? Or do you think being, I suppose, too close to technology and focused on tech itself can distract you from being a good leader? What are your thoughts?
I think it's really tricky. I don't know if you can call that statement either way, right? I think that you can be really strong in the tech and have very good leadership skills, and there are people who do have both. I don't think that one is necessarily, I don't think they're dependent on each other or connected is probably what I'm trying to say. And I think that some technology people are deeply technical and then don't carry through the same skills into leadership.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, I think that sometimes it is helpful to not be so deep in the technology, but knowing enough to be able to question and challenge and really make sure we're going in the right direction, I think is very important. And then being able to see the gaps in the skills and where you do need the extra, where are the areas that deep technical, knowledge is really needed, and making sure that the team has that. So you need to know it so that you can build it. But I think sometimes it's helpful not to be so deeply technical. But in saying that, you could do both, right? You can be very deeply technical and a good leader if you're focused on those skills.
And I suppose we've talked around, obviously, breaking the glass ceiling. We've talked around mentorship and networking, leadership, strong mental mindset. What do you think is the most important thing to break that ceiling, to get your first role at a seat at the table, particularly as a female in technology? What advice would you give to people who are on the cusp of doing that, and what should they lean into and, I suppose, focus on?
I think it's difficult. There are so many aspects. I think that having, the way you show up every day to work is really important. So that decision doesn't just come out of nowhere. You don't just get it for the fun of it, right? It comes from the reputation you've built in the market over years. It comes from the relationships you have with people like recruiters that then tell other people in the market that, yeah, this is a company you want to go and work for, because I know the leader, and the leader takes time, and people who work for her say they want to work for her. It's all the things that build up over time to give you that reputation, because I think a lot of these roles don't come from you applying for something, right? The roles often come from a headhunter that has heard about you from some phone call that they have made. You know, they've called someone to talk about the role, and they've maybe said, I'm not interested, but I know someone who's really good, and she's about to take that next step. You need to talk to her. So I think there's a lot around your relationships and around your consistency and how you've shown up over the years that helps drive you to then get that phone call to be ready to accept. Because I don't think that, it doesn't just come out of nowhere. It comes through a lot of hard work, and I think relationships are really important.
I agree. I think if I think back to, you've referred on to me some very, very good people over the years, and I think a good recommendation from you kind of for me validates this person is a good individual. But I agree that the relationships piece is really, really important. How have you adapted to obviously breaking the glass ceiling and becoming your first CIO role? It's not about technology anymore. Like you have to be PR, you have to be marketing, you've got to be finance, do budgets. Like, how have you adapted to, I suppose, that new skill set that's needed for this role?
Look, it's definitely been interesting. I mean, coming to do something like this is not something that I would have done. But I think it's all really important, because you need to be, putting the best foot of the organization forward, right? We need to be out there and talking about what is happening within the organization, within the team. You know, we're bringing in people. What does this team look like for those people to join? But also it becomes more and more about stories, right? It becomes more and more about the stories and the value and how you can sell what technology can do across the organization. And when you're selling to board and executive level, it's really around how to articulate that in a story that really resonates and makes sense to them. So definitely my storytelling skills we're working on them, and they're evolving. But I think that it's using the use cases of what other people have done in the market so that they can see success and bringing that to the table. And so, it definitely becomes more of you kind of end up, I'm going to say researching, like learning about other places and what are they doing? How can we take pieces of that? How can we make sure that we are bringing in other people's learnings and experiences to what we're about to do, and really driving that forward? So,
what's your source of information then? Where do you find, like, it's
so many places, so many places. So I've been meeting other CIOs from organizations, so similar manufacturing businesses, and really that's through working relationships. So either relationships with vendors that we have to say, hey, have you got anyone else that's been doing something similar to what we're about to embark on that would be happy to talk to me? And to be honest, most of the time, people are willing to give up some of their time to talk and share and help someone else in a similar situation. And so I've been leveraging that. And also, going to some of the public events that are covering topics and taking the time to kind of meet and interact with a specialist on a topic. That's all been really valuable, because often in business, we're not the first to try something. Other people have tried, failed maybe, and you can learn something from their failure, or they've tried and succeeded and you can take something from that as well. And so, it's been a lot of discussions with people to see what, extracting the good, filtering out the stuff that is not relevant for us, and helping us drive our plans forward.
Sounds like you've had a very busy 6 months, obviously with the international US piece of your role as well.
Yes.
How do you have boundaries? Like, what is your secret to having boundaries to make sure that you're in a good place to work at your peak when needed, but also making sure you're not on the journey to burnout?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know that I have the best boundaries some days. You'd probably ask my husband and he might give a different answer. But I do think that it is making sure that there is balance. And sometimes some days it's easier than other. The world of technology sometimes means that you are fighting fires and the team are on and we're having to work incredibly long hours. But it's making sure that we balance that with when there is a a slower day,
Yeah.
that we use that time in the best way we can. So yeah, it's not always easy, but I think I've got pretty good balance lately. I think it's a tricky balance to find, but it's getting there.
Yeah. And you talked around obviously your love of reading books. What else do you do outside of work to help you, I suppose, detach from work and I suppose build that mental strength to be able to get back to work the next day and deliver what you need to?
Well, I mean, the thing that I try and find the most time for is horses. So I ride, and I really love spending time with my horse. So definitely the horse, but also, so my kids have a lot of sports, and spending time actually going to their games, and my daughter does cheerleading. So watching her competitions and cheering my son on with AFL on the weekends with his team. And that has then also evolved into us now being fierce Sydney Swans supporters and choosing to go to those games. But yeah, it's just making sure that those things aren't forgotten in everything that we do, still making time for all of those things. And, spending time outside of the city. So my husband and I enjoy camping and getting away, so completely getting off grid where we can and being as remote as possible, and spending time as a family doing that. And there's so much joy you can bring, and you see the kids disconnecting from any form of technology and just being, out in bush, in mud, running wild. They love it. So it's making sure that there's time for all of that stuff as well as work.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for listening to today's podcast with Keiren. Just to recap, it was about the breaking the glass ceiling today. So we talked around leadership. We talked around the value of networking and mentorship. I suppose the challenges of becoming a CIO for the first time and the learnings we take away from that, building strong mental strength and a mindset, and then also the value of boundaries and making sure that you're spending time with stuff that feeds your soul as well as your career. So with that in mind, Keiren, as I do with all my guests, just want to ask you a question, which is, what is the one thing that you wish you could teach your younger self earlier in your career?
I think for me, it's around when things don't go the way that you'd hoped they go or the way that they'd planned. So I think that over my career, there have been things that you'd wanted to happen that haven't necessarily happened. And looking back on it, you can really easily say that you ended you are where you're supposed to be. And those kind of setbacks or things that you didn't get that you wanted to get or do is really just you need to pivot and move to the next thing. And I think that that's really important because, the change and the scale of change that we spoke a lot about today is happening so rapidly through our careers. And so making sure that we're on the front foot and we pivot and we respond and we have the right attitude in every situation just goes such a long way. And you just kind of have to trust that you're going to land in the appropriate place that you're going to land. Trust in yourself and you'll get there.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate you listening today. If you could like, comment and share and stay tuned for more content. Thank you.